Hello and welcome to Just Us Thinking. I'm your host, Michael.
And I'm your co-host, Rebecca.
And I'm your AV guy, Mikey.
And we're getting to Trauma Series. This is part 5.
Part 5 is the end.
Kinda the end of my marriage.
Okay.
So, if you listened to part 4, you kind of went through kind of what I had to... Just kind of what I had to go through.
Okay.
It was kind of, I don't know, what do you think?
It's a lot to take in for sure. It's just really eye-opening, I guess.
Okay.
It goes both ways. So.
It can. So, me and the marriage was over.
Okay.
I went to her and I said, hey, I can't keep doing this. She didn't want it to end. I'm gathering she didn't want it to end. I told her, it's over. This was like one of our last big fights. I said, I can't keep doing this anymore. Now I'm gathering she thought at one point, well, how many times have we done this?
Yeah.
It's how many times toward the end I started saying, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this. And this time, this last time I said, I mean it. I can't do this. We're done. Now this is when my daughter was getting ready to get married.
Okay.
So now I had just found out that, my daughter's fiance at the time, he had a friend.
Okay.
I'm going to call him Big M. Okay. So Big
Okay.
M was Austin's best friend. Okay.
Okay.
Now we were all gaming over at Buddy's house, and I found out that there was some fooling around between Wendy and Big M. So,
Wow.
yeah, there was some messages that went back and forth. In fact, I caught that was kind of this was the end. This is where I said, okay, enough. So I caught the messages going back and forth. She said, I could come over now if you want. And he responded back with something very inappropriate that he was going to do to her when she got over there.
Okay.
So I kind of, I was at this point, I'm furious. I'm mad. It's the cheating. Man, I thought maybe if I intercepted it and it didn't happen that she wouldn't do it. And then it was over and over. So I picked up my phone and I called him and I said, hey, what are you doing? He goes, nothing. Why are you calling me? I said, because you're trying to, you're going to do this to my wife. And he hung up.
Oh, wow.
He hung up instantly. I tried to call him back. I said, I want an explanation. You're sitting across a game table playing games with me while you're fucking around with my wife right in the same room. You're doing shit underneath the table to each other, touching each other, and, under the table trying to hide it. Now, she's like, oh, I'm cold, so she'll be under a blanket.
Yeah.
And they were fooling around under the blanket,
Wow.
playing with each other, all kinds of shit. And, that caused all kinds of problems.
Oh, yeah.
So, now my daughter's getting married and I'm telling her, this is done. This is over. We're done. And of course, then the guilt trip came in. Okay. So I packed my bags and I got on the guilt trip because if I broke up with her now, and I ruined my daughter's wedding, then I was the asshole. So that caused all kinds of problems. That
I could see that. Yeah.
so it got to the point where I told her, we're done. If you want to wait till after the wedding to tell everybody we're done, I'm fine with that. We're having family come in town. You know, if you don't want to say anything, that's fine. But as soon as the wedding's over, you and I are done.
Okay.
There's no more us. Now, it got to the point where the best friend for this wedding is going to be Big M. Okay? And that's when I flat out said, there is no way in hell I'm going to be at that wedding if BM is your best man. Not going to happen. I will not be there. If he's going to be there, I can't be there.
Wow.
If you want me there, then he can't be there.
Yeah.
So now my son-in-law's pissed off at me. My daughter's pissed off at me because I can't be in the same room with my wife and the guy she's been fooling around with that I now know. Right? I mean, I can't do that. I'm sorry. I'm not that big of a guy.
No.
I'm not. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
Wow.
And so that, of course, made he couldn't be at the bachelor party. He could, because we were all going. You know, I was invited to the bachelor party with everybody else there.
Okay.
His uncle is my best friend, so it's kind of crazy. So we get to the point where now we recently went back and watched the rehearsal footage of the wedding rehearsal. Now, no one knew it at the time, but me and Wendy were done. In fact, what did you hear, Mikey?
Where is Wendy, anyways?
Yeah. So I told her, I said, we're not going to be at the same wedding rehearsal. We were done. And I'm like, I can't deal with you over there now. So a couple people in the wedding were, where is Wendy right now? And, it was excuses were made. Mm-hmm. And you're in an interesting situation because you're like saying, yeah, because we're getting divorced. You couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So, that's when we had originally done all the paperwork, and I thought it was all, at that point, I was told, yeah, just file it because it's an amicable divorce. We were going to do 50-50 custody for Mikey.
Okay.
It was going to be an amicable divorce, and, I didn't want any hard feelings. I wanted my kids in my life, but I also didn't want her out of their life either.
Yeah.
Regardless of mine and her problems, that was still their mother. So I found out later on that she kind of didn't do any of the paperwork there for the divorce. She letters came in to get it done, and I was told it was taken care of. Now, I guess my problem there was I was hoping it was coming to an end, and I was trying to put it behind me. Should I have double checked? Yes, I should have double checked. I didn't, and I thought, I guess it didn't, as far as I was concerned, it was over with. She didn't actually sign her part of it and turn it in.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I didn't know, I didn't know how divorce works. I've never been there. I don't know. No one ever walked me through it. No one. The lawyer just said, since it's amicable, it's just filing the paperwork. You guys both sign off at it, and you're good. And I'm like, okay. And I remember asking, do we need to see a judge? They're like, oh no, you could just sign a paper here, and you don't even have to see the judge. I'm like, okay, well that's fine. I'm good with that. If they're happy with everything, that's fine. So that's when she kind of stuck around a little bit after that. And then at one point I said, we're divorced. We're done. You need to get out. You're bouncing in and out of the house. You kept going from our house, or from my house, to my dad's house and over to a friend's house and all kinds of this shit. And she kept saying, "Oh, well, me and your dad got in a fight. I need to crash out here." I'm like, "Well, I have an extra bedroom. You can sleep in the extra bedroom, but now that Tiffany and Austin moved out, you can sleep in this extra bedroom, but get money to get on your feet and get your own place."
Yeah.
That just seemed to never happen. And so that's where it got to the point where you and I started dating. And I found out, actually, after you and I started dating, I found out very shortly that the divorce paper wasn't done.
Yeah.
This is where I got blindsided. This was another, I said, "Well, I'm dating someone else. I'm dating someone. Sorry, I'm moving on."
Right.
And that's when she got pissed off, and then that's when I got blindsided. That's when she says, "Well, we're still married." I'm like, "What do you mean we're still married?" She's like, "I didn't do the divorce paperwork." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I remember she wanted to ruin my night.
Yeah.
She did wanted to ruin my night. And then I remember I'm like, "You know what?" I said, "Now here's the thing. I didn't know if I should believe her or not believe her or what, because
Right.
now I'm confused." So I'm literally on my way to go get you. I'm literally on my way to go get you. And you and I were dating for a little bit at that point.
Yeah.
But we've had more than a few dates on that point. And then we get back to, it was a hotel that we were going to stay at. Mm-hmm. And I said, "I need you to sit down. I need to talk to you." Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Now I know why you don't like to be blindsided.
Yeah.
Because that kind of sucked.
So I had to say, I think I said, "I really, really like you. I just found out that my divorce papers never went actually through."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I don't know how to tell you or how to do this." And I want to say you asked, "Well, is it truly over?" I think you asked, because at that point you didn't know what was going on, and I kind of didn't know what was going on. And I said, "No, it's over." I said, "It's a done deal. I don't want any part of her. I don't want anything like that." So, and at that point, I think we were, shortly after that, I think we were trying to arrange because she didn't want you to be around Mikey without meeting her first.
Yeah.
And so we tried to arrange that at a bowling alley, and that didn't go very well because she stormed out.
Yeah.
And that was a nightmare too. So she, at that point, I think we were dating for some time, and that's when I said, "Well, I've got to get the divorce paperwork going again, obviously." And I started working on that paperwork as well. I had to find some of the old paperwork so I could rebuild it.
Yeah.
And I think you went out of town to go see your brother, right?
I think that was that trip.
So you were actually at the airport. So now the guilt trips that I've packed through this marriage was a lot.
Yeah.
Now I told the kids, I told both Mikey and Tiffany that when they were big enough, and Mikey was tall enough to start riding some roller coaster rides, that was the deal. So Tiffany was my roller coaster rider, and that's who I always rode with. And the plan was always, well, when Mikey gets old enough, you'll ride with, that'll be your roller coaster rider. I had mine. It's your turn.
Okay.
And so that's what we did. So we went. So I got guilted after I'm like, we're getting a divorce, we're done, and she's like, well, you promised the kids that we take them to that. And I was torn. I'm like, I don't want to go I don't want to go do this shit, especially with you.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, but you already promised the kids. I'm like, okay. So I did. I'm like, fine, okay, let's pack it. Let's pack the bags. You got me on the guilt trip. I'm going. So we all met here at the house at early that morning, and I drove out there.
Okay.
We went into the park, and she wanted to ride the roller coasters with me. Now, Austin,
Of course.
Austin and Tiffany were there, and I kind of, I kind of said, I told Tiffany, I'm like, look, I've ridden all these roller coasters with you. We've had a good run. You're married. You need to start riding them with him. I'm phasing myself out of this. You're needing, this is your next step. I didn't realize that Tiffany wanted to ride some of the roller coaster rides with me. I didn't realize that was the case. But I also didn't want to be there. So it kind of, I just kind of wanted to, be a back seat.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, you ride with, her. And then, that's when Wendy says, well, we'll just take turns riding with Mikey. I said, no, you ride with him. I don't want to, she goes, well, we could all switch out and we could all ride together. I'm like, nope. You two ride together. Those two are riding together. I'll find some random person. And it did. I was finding some random person, and
Yeah.
It went sour because there was a couple girls that I started riding that we were going on the same. Because we're going the same path.
Yeah.
And since one of their friends was a third wheel in that one, I was the third wheel in ours. We kind of got paired up on a lot of these roller coaster rides and a lot of these rides. Now, there was nothing there, but she got jealous because I think I may have said something that didn't help the matter because I do sometimes do
Really?
that. Yeah.
No way.
Really?
Yeah. Surprise, everybody. I think I said, if I knew when you're a solo rider, they just assigned you some cute girl to ride with, I would have done this years ago. That didn't go off. Listen, it was funny in my head. And then I thought it was funny out loud.
Yeah. And it really wasn't.
She didn't find it funny at all. I was still laughing over it. So as the night went on that roller coaster, on that amusement park, that was up in Des Moines. What's that one?
Adventureland.
Adventureland, yeah. And we've never been there. So
Yeah.
then I wanted to find a hot dog, or I was looking for a corn dog at the end of the night. It's an amusement park. I wanted my corn dog, and I was chasing that rabbit all goddamn day. Tell you that right now. I said I want to do this. Tiffany and Austin wanted to ride a ride. I looked at the clock. I'm like, you guys aren't going to make it there. Line's too long. Park's going to close too soon. I'm going to get my corn dog. And they're like, no, let's ride it. I'm a big boy. I could walk away and go eat my own corn dog by my damn self.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I did. I was kind of pissed off. And so I did. And shortly after that, it caused it started causing, and it grated on everybody's nerves at the end of the park. Everybody was we're tired, we're exhausted. I never wanted to be there. I was regretting being there. We should not have done it. Part of me says I'm glad we did it. Part of me said I wish we didn't. Got my corn dogs. We went we got some souvenirs, and I drove home.
Okay.
So I got up at the crack of dawn, drove there, stayed there all day, closed the park out, drove home. Open to close.
Yeah.
I don't understand that with you.
That's.
Hey, when you're paying like $40 to get in somewhere, you want to make sure you get your money's worth.
Damn straight.
That's fair.
So we drove home, and then Tiffany was asleep when we got home. Austin was peeling her out of my truck to get into her car, her truck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so everybody's going home. I'm going to sleep. Everybody good? And yeah, Austin's like, yep. So I went in the house. I think I asked, I said, is Mikey staying here with me or he's staying here with you? We just woke Mikey up. He was half asleep. And she's like, it's late. If he wants to stay here, he could stay here. I said, all right, go to bed. So I had Mike go to bed, and I looked back. I said, so you're out of here. Are you gonna come pick him up tomorrow? What are you gonna do? She's like, I don't know. I'll call you.
Okay.
And I closed the door and I went in and I went to bed. I thought that was over. I thought it was done. I woke up the next morning and I heard the TV on in the living room. So I'm like, okay, Mikey's up. I go out into the living room and Mikey's sitting in the chair and so is Wendy. And I'm like, okay. And I looked, I said, when did you get here? And she's like, oh, I stayed the night. I said, oh, okay. I thought you left. She's like, no, it was too late and I just stayed here. I'm like, okay. And I said, well, I'm up. I'm getting ready to go get something to eat. So are you going to go? Do I need to worry about getting Mikey some food? Is he going to come with me or is he going to come with you? What's going to go on here? And she's like, what, I can't come get to eat something to eat with you? I said, no. If you want to go get something to eat, you can go get something to eat. I'm going to go jump in the shower and I'm going to get ready to go and I'm leaving. Is Mikey with me? And she's like, I'll just take him with me. I was going to do laundry. And I said, okay, well, I'm leaving. I'm going to leave. If you need to do laundry and you're going to do some stuff for you and Mikey, fine. Have at it. I don't care. I'm leaving. I'm going to go get something to eat. And then she just got pissed. Okay. Like, just hit the roof. So she then, she snapped up Mikey. And she's like, I'm leaving. I'm like, okay. And she's like, I'm taking Mikey. I'm like, okay. Are you taking him all day? What's going on? I don't know yet. And she would storm off. And I'm like, great. And she stormed off, and I want to say I jumped in the shower. I was getting ready to go. And as I was coming out and getting ready to leave, I see her car pulling up in the driveway. I'm like, oh, shit.
Round two.
Yep. So she came in, and I said, she's like, she just starts screaming. She's like, I don't understand what's the problem is. I said, what do you mean you don't understand what the problem is here? She's like, why are you treating me this way? I'm like, we're done. I don't understand. I've moved on. I'm dating somebody.
Yeah.
I'm in a relationship. We're done. I'm sorry you didn't get the paperwork done, but this is the new paperwork. And that's when she's like, well, I'm not leaving because I got to do laundry. And she just started just to scream at me. And I'm like, well, I would like to go. She's like, no, you're going to have to talk to me. We had this, she started going, I'm like, if you're doing laundry, then do laundry. And I'm like, you don't even have a basket with you. She's like, it's in the car. I said, well, then and she's like, she started throwing a fit. And I'm like, if you're going to do laundry, do laundry. If you just want to argue with me, leave. So she walked out the door and grabbed the laundry basket out of her car. And she was still, like, she's outside and she was still kind of ranting and, like, still yelling at me so I closed the door and I locked the door. So I'm like, and so I locked the door and I'm holding the deadbolt. And I said, all we're going to do is fight. All we're going to do is argue. I don't want to do that with you. Just leave. And she's like, so now this was right after winter.
Yeah.
There was still a snow shovel sitting on the patio there, on the front porch. And so she grabbed that and she started like she was going to break the window. So her keys were in the door, and every time she would unlock the door, I would lock the deadbolt. And when and I would hold the deadbolt so she couldn't open it. So she was acting, she was like trying to hit the window. And at one point I thought the window was going to break because she was hitting it over and over again. And when I thought that window was going to break, I kind of jumped back to try to avoid glass.
Yeah.
I let go of the deadbolt. And when I let go of the deadbolt, she had her key already in it, and she opened the door. Well, when she opened the door, she started she had the snow shovel in her hand, and I kind of took a step back, and she then just started grabbing pictures off the wall and just throwing them at me, and just smashing them all over the floor and hitting me with them. And then I was standing there at that point I couldn't even move. I don't even think I had my socks and shoes on at that point. I'm standing there barefoot. And then she smacks me in the head with a snow shovel. Hits me, and then it kind of dazed and confused me, and I kind of dropped down to my knees, and I looked out the side window, and I saw the neighbor across the street, and he was outside on the phone. I could see him on the phone, and that's when I looked up to her, and I said, that neighbor's calling the police, right? She looked out, saw him out there on the phone, dropped everything, grabbed the laundry basket outside.
Yeah.
Jumped in the car and drove off.
Wow.
So now I'm confused. I've just got hit with a snow shovel. I haven't eaten anything, so I'm hungry. I'm surrounded by glass, so I can't even move. And the minute I start to stand up or start to get up, I got really dizzy and I'm like lightheaded. So I'm like, shit. And that's when I'm like, well, if he's calling the police, I don't really have a choice. I got to call the police too. So I called the police, and they were there almost immediately. Like I was on the phone with the dispatcher, and she said, "Yep, we're pulling up to your house now."
Wow.
So that means I think the neighbor called the police. So they pulled up. They asked what happened. We went through all that stuff, and
now I was at my grandpa's when this happened.
Right. So now they left my house. The police left my house, and they said, we're going to kind of have to press charges. So the one officer helped move some of the glass so I can move. Mm-hmm. And then I started cleaning up. So what the other side of that, Mikey, this is going to go to you. What do you remember?
So what I remember is when, after all that happened, Wendy came back, and she came back in, and then the cops showed up at the door. Wendy went out with them, and then the next time that Grandpa opened the door, she was in handcuffs, crying, screaming and throwing a tantrum, and they basically took her away. And then a cop came back and said that you're going to have to go with your dad. So Grandpa locked the door, shut the door, did everything in his power to not let you take me. And Wendy also said, do not let Michael take him.
Right. So that led to me calling the police and going back over to my father's house and saying, I'm here to pick up Mikey. Mikey's coming with me. He said no. I called the police, and basically told the police, I said, that's my son. I don't care. He's coming with me. And the police went over there and told my father and said, that's the dad. He has the rights. And he said, well, the kids, Wendy doesn't want him to go. Where's Wendy? Well, she's in jail. Well, yeah, she doesn't have a say then. She's in jail. She just got taken to jail. No, that's not going to be the case.
And then I think he had me like make up some excuse to say why I didn't want to go with you.
See, the lies. That's where the lies go. He was like, just tell him that he does this. He was trying to get anything and everything to not let that happen. And I think I finally I looked at the police officer. I said, here's your choice. If he doesn't let me have my son, that's called kidnapping. I will press kidnapping charges. And I think the police officer said, yeah, you're right. He went over there and basically finally told my father and said, either you let him go with him or he's going to go with him and you're going to jail for kidnapping.
Wow.
And that's finally when he finally said, okay. And he didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Now, the other side of that coin is right after that, I had to call a friend of ours and say, this is what happened. And you were at the airport when you got the phone call from me, right?
Yeah.
So what do you remember?
I just remember like you saying, I need to talk to you, something happened. And I was like, okay. And you explained it. I was like, nice.
So it got to the point where now you got home.
Yeah.
And I knew she was getting ready to get out of jail. My father basically said he was going to bail her out.
Yeah.
And so literally you, me and Mikey are actually hiding over at your dad's house.
Yeah.
Your mom and dad's.
Yeah.
Were we?
Oh, yeah. Because you guys were playing Wii. You had no clue. We're like, we're going to go over to Rebecca's and play Wii. You had no idea that I didn't want her to get out of jail and come over and do all that shit.
Oh, yeah, because me and you because we were playing Wii Sports down there.
Yep.
And then when she got out of jail, she called me and I kind of got a gauge on what's going on. And I said, you got to understand that we're done. And I basically used that incident to say, if you try to take my son, I'm going to make sure I keep pressing charges.
Yeah.
And I think I finally said, if you don't want me to press charges, I don't want to fight. I want the divorce signed. I want everything done. I just want away from you. And that's kind of what we tried to do, right?
Yeah.
Now, we had some very awkward moments, to say the least, right?
Yeah.
So we tried to make it work. Now that the divorce was done, everything was done. We thought everything was good. Then it got into a little bit more craziness, right? It was.
Oh, yeah.
Now there was all kinds of craziness afterwards. Now there's a point where she couldn't afford presents for the kids for Christmas, so I said I didn't trust her with my card, but you actually ended up taking her to go buy presents for the kids, right?
We did, yeah.
I couldn't go with her. You volunteered to a task that was a horrible task to do.
Yeah.
Yet you did it. And then we shared a couple Christmases together. So we were trying to find our new normal.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't working out, was it?
No, not really.
And then it got to the point where she actually abandoned Mikey.
Yeah.
She stopped talking to us because there was,
There were some problems that we had.
Right. And now most of that story you can find in our adoption episode.
Yep.
That was a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
Because we talked all about, the lead up of all that. So I'm not going to rehash that. If you want to go listen to the divorce or to the adoption episode, I would recommend doing that. But it got to the point where we were done.
Yeah.
I mean, it got to the point where, like, even at the end, Tiffany Austin, that when they were living here, right before the wedding, I opened the door and I'm like, she's standing there holding a gun at me. I'm like, what you don't understand is she has pulled a gun on me a lot of times. Most of the time, now I was smart enough to either unload it, or I think one time I even removed the firing pin from the firearm.
Wow.
I used to put them in the safe and lock them up, but she's an adult. She gets keys, and she had a concealed carry permit as well. So she would carry a firearm as well, and man, I don't know how many times she pulled that firearm on me.
Wow.
It's
That's just
scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
So now this is also, I found out, and I get called into a bar from, I'm going to call this this guy, I'm going to call him Big Mikey. Okay. Big Mikey, not to mention, not you, Mikey,
Not me.
not you. So this is Big Mikey. I get called to a bar. It's an old friend of mine that I used to game with. He used to be at the game table with us. And he goes, "Hey, I'm in town and I want to meet you at a bar." I said, "Okay. Haven't heard from you in forever. I don't know. Let's go." So he gets into a bar with me and he goes, "I got something to tell you." I said, "Okay." He goes, "Well, I found Jesus." I'm like, "Okay." I was unaware that you were looking for him. I myself was looking for Waldo. I haven't found Waldo yet. Glad you found Jesus.
Yeah.
Tell him if you see Carmen Sandiego, let me know. So he's like, "Well, I'm doing these steps where I have to go back and ask for forgiveness for people who I've wronged." And I'm like, "Okay, so how did you wrong me? What's going on here?" Because obviously that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
He goes, "Well, I slept with Wendy." And I said, "You did what?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah." And he told me. He goes, "It was one of the times where my buddy was out of town, and he was responsible for watching the house while he was gone."
Yeah.
And him and Wendy got together over there, and had a good old time fucking on a sofa over there.
Oh.
And he's telling me this story, and I'm sitting there thinking, now by this time the marriage is over, but it doesn't matter because now I'm just pissed
that was
off.
like a year or two afterwards, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about a year or two later,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and then that's what it kind of infuriated. It was like a Band-Aid that just kept getting ripped off.
Yeah.
I just kept, now that, okay, this one. And, I remember this guy, Big Mikey sitting across from me. He's like, and he tells me what he did, and he goes, I now that I found Jesus, I have to, I'm repenting with you, and, I want you to forgive me. And I told him, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not going to forgive you. And he goes, "Well, we could still be friends." I said, "Friends? No, fuck no, we're not friends. We're not friends." I said, "You're lucky there's people around. Because if there was no one around and I could get away with it, I will beat the shit out of you." And I looked at him, I'm like, and I'm telling this, I'm like, I'm more shocked right now of what you're telling me. You were one of my good friends. We hung out. We did all kinds of shit together. And you want to sit here and say you've been fucking my wife? And now you want to be friends? Fuck you.
Yeah.
There's no fucking way. And I told him, and he goes, so at that point, I'm like, "Okay, we're done." We had a few drinks, and then we went up to the bar to pay. And he looked over, he goes, "I can get this." I said, "You're fucking right, you're going to get this." And, he pays the bill, and I stood there while he paid the bill, and I'm like, I'm standing there going, I don't know what the fuck to say. I'm like, I just want to beat the shit out of you. And he said, he goes, well, I hope in time we can be friends again. I said, I'll tell you what, you better not walk out in front of my truck. You better make sure you're far away from anywhere in the street. I said, you might don't let me find you walking across the street ever again.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and I told him at that point too. I said, I tell you what. I said, you got me. I'm at a loss here. I said, but if I ever see your face again, I am beating your ass. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to beat your ass. And then I left. And then shortly after that, we had a birthday party that we went to. It was Mikey's birthday party. And we were doing it over at the
bowling alley.
The bowling alley.
Yeah.
So we're having a good old time. And then my son-in-law says, his buddy's on his way up there. Big M is on his way up there. So I'm sitting there, and sure enough, he gets there, and Big M decides he's going to taunt me, which we're in the bar area away from the bowling alley. They're supposed to be there to bowl. He walked by the glass a few times with a shit-eating grin and flicking me off. And he walked by a couple times, smiling and giving me the finger. And I'm like, you know what? I walked outside. I walked out into the patio area. And I'm like, I remember thinking, if this guy walks by this window one more time, I'm going to come out there and beat the shit out of him. Not only was he fucking with my wife at the time, his best friend's wife's mother.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to do it. So I tried to walk away. And when I walked away, I went in the patio area. He then decides to go out the front door and starts mouthing off. Now I could hear him. I lost it.
Yeah.
I lost my temper. Not a good thing, but I did lose it. I had about enough. I got pushed to the end. I am surprised I didn't break his window. Yeah. He was hiding in the car, and I had about 3 or 4 people trying to hold me off of him. I was pissed off. This was supposed to be a birthday party for Mikey, and this guy just wanted to come through and do this shit. And I hit the fucking roof, and it took 5 or 6 people to keep us apart, with him hiding in a car. And then I got put back inside. Luckily, I came finally to some sense and walked back inside. And I think the bowling alley was like, you can't do that. If you keep doing that, and I don't know. I'm like, now I'm making myself look like an ass in a bowling alley because all they see is me going after this kid, and they don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And you know what? I swear to God, I thought I saw Wendy smile about it because she was there at the birthday party.
Yeah.
I think she kind of got off on it. I'm not 100% sure, but that's, even after that, it was just a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
So, and then it was just like, now you got to think, now I look back and go, who did she cheat on me with? Who didn't she cheat on me with? Who's shaking my hand pretending to be my friend, knowing that they did something, what the hell were they doing with my wife? Fooling around, flirting, what the hell's going on? I have text messages where she was talking about how she cheated on me before and, all this crap.
Yeah. Wow.
You read some of those, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
I still have them, so I have the text message. I showed you what they were, and I think the first thing here is like, holy shit.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. So if you're wondering why I have trust issues, that's kind of why. It hasn't been a good experience for me. So
no,
that's kind of what it is. So she's gone. She's kind of out of our life. to a certain point now where we may only have to see her for grandkids, but we'll see how that goes. So I think that is kind of the end.
Well, it's almost the end. We do have one more part left.
Part 6 is coming, so yeah, stay tuned. That's gonna be an interesting one. So that's part 6 is the end of the series.
Okay.
So if you made it this far in the journey, what a hell of a ride, right?
That's an understatement. Yep.
All right, so they could find us, if you like our stories, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, on X.
Yep. And then you can listen to us on pretty much any podcast player like iHeart, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and Samsung.
Yep, and then you have, did you say YouTube Music, or did you forget that one?
No, I left that one out.
You left that one out?
Yeah.
So YouTube Music is always there for us. Now, regular YouTube, Rumble, and we still post on TikTok until it's banned.
Yep. Good old government.
Always fun. So, I don't know, stay tuned for part 6, and that's going to conclude our series. So, we'll leave part 5 here.
All right. Bye, everybody.